Hello, everyone. I was thinking long and hard whether I should at all uh, create this video. And the reason is because, first of all, I don't want to give out what I think about the whole thing. So this will be strictly a karmic astrological analysis of a chart. And the chart, of course, is the first administering of the COVID vaccine, the Pfizer COVID vaccine. And the reason why I'm trying to be very neutral and just going to enumerate the facts, that we know or are aware of, is because, number one, I'm not a virus denier. Number two, yes, the virus is very, very real, and a lot of people died as a result. And at least here in Hungary, the doctors and the nurses were doing horribly intense and very successful work. And I can't actually be grateful enough for their job, the way they did their job, the way they actually put themselves into the line and did everything in their power to save patients and to fight this terrible pandemic. Now let's take a look at the chart itself. So let's try to be very objective and let's see what we can see with the help of karmic astrology in this chart. I have to tell you that when I first saw it, of course, we got the news, and of course, it happened in New York, in Queens actually on December 14th. So we are going to. It's the second anniversary is coming up. That's why I actually took another good look at this chart, because when I first saw it, I said to myself, okay, interesting chart, and there's this Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Kind of, this is what the chart actually conveyed to me. And what struck me first was the multiple conjunctions. And in karmic astrology, when I teach, I try to explain, when you see a chart with multiple conjunctions, clusters of planets flocking together, it usually suggests that the person has a lot of fear and doesn't know how to proceed, and so it jumbles planets, sometimes planets that are really adversary, but still the effect is quite funny, because whenever, let's say you are afraid of the dark and you visit one of your friends and she lives in a dead-end alley, and you need to go to the bus, but it's really dark and you are kind of scared. So you ask her to accompany you up till the bus stop. This is exactly what planets do when they jumble up in pairs or in triplets or in multiple conjunctions. And the result is always more than the individual planets. So there's always more. They stick together. One person is just one person. A pair is a lot more than just two, and the whole family is even more. It's a strength, and that is why the powers that be want us to forget about our families. We are going to look at these conjunctions in details, and I'm only going to. I'm going to tell you the astrological meaning of these conjunctions. I'm not actually going to tell you what I think. But it's fascinating that it's a space-time moment when the Pluto-Aries square is very much there, and Mars is also applying to Aries. So you have this militant feeling. Mars in its own sign, conjunct Aries, it has this very dark energy. And then dark moon, black moon conjunct Uranus is another interesting feature. Uranus is change, and black moon is the goddess who returns to the Garden of Eden because she has things to do. When I look at the chart, of course, I get the flavor first. I look at it, and of course, I'm sure that you didn't fail to realize that Pluto was rising in this chart, and there was a Sun-Moon very tight conjunction. We are going to revisit these issues. But what I also do is I go to Serenu.com, which is a brilliant site. You can find all the asteroids, all the named centaurs, TNOs, STOs, and everything, even Uranians, which I don't work with because we have enough physical bodies to deal with. I don't really do hypothetical. But if you do it and it gives you an added insight, please use it. I'm not against anything. So what I do is I usually go to Serenu.com and I select the zodiacal order, and I see what's the very first object that crops up, and it's Requiem. It was Requiem, which is, of course, a mass for the souls of the dead. And next to it is Asclepius, who is the custodian of the Garden of Hades. And so it's the guard of the underworld, and when Persephone is taken down to the underworld by Hades, and of course she needs to eat, so she goes to the garden, and the gardener gives her a pomegranate, and she eats 3 pomegranate seeds, and this is the reason why she can't actually go back to her mother. And there are many ways of how this story pans out, and I'm not going to spend too much time with it. You can Google it, and it's a brilliant story because it actually gives you the insight that yes, a girl needs to grow up and needs to get married, and if not, then someone from the underworld comes and takes her. But what is important for us is that Asclepius is turned, as a punishment, is turned into a short-eared owl, which, according to Ovid, is the vilest bird, a messenger of grief, the lazy owl, sad omen to mankind. That's what it means. And next to it is Salacia, who, among other things, because we use it extensively in karmic astrology, because she is very much linked to Atlantean karma. And but it also has a meaning of hidden things. Salacia, who becomes the bride of Neptune, when the god wants to meet her, she shuns and hides at the very, very bottom of the ocean, and Neptune can't find her. And actually, it is a metaphor for the fact that sometimes we have no idea what lurks in our underworld, in our personal underworld, which is, of course, our psyche. But it also means that something that you own, Neptune is supposed to own the oceans, but still he can't find something that is in a place that he owns. So actually, there's there's another twist in this celestial object, showing that sometimes we can hide something in plain view, or something that we think we own, we can still not govern or rule. Anyhow, and then Chiron, of course. So all these are actually in a doubly applying conjunction, because Salacia and Chiron are they have a longer orbital period, so they are slower than the asteroids, but they are retrograde. And then the asteroids, which are much faster moving, are coming up to Salacia and Chiron to meet them. So that's quite interesting. So this will be a conjunction. In karmic astrology, we link viruses to Pholus. And if you look at the glyph of one of the glyphs of Pholus, there are many. So, but this I think is I don't know which astrologer created this glyph. Sorry about that. It's probably Zaidstein. Hopefully it is, and I apologize if it's someone else's glyph. But it has a striking similarity to a bacteriophage, or phage, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. This is a thing, it's a virus, that actually gets inside a cell and eats out the cell, the middle of the cell, and replaces himself, puts himself in there itself. Sorry. So there is a striking similarity, and yes, Pholus simply owns viruses. And here's Pholus at Capricorn 3 degrees, effectively squaring Chiron and everything else before it. But also, if you take a look at what else is there, conjunct Pholus, 0, asteroid 0, Memoria, Quaoar, and Phaethon. Phaethon is disaster. Quaoar is an interesting TNO. It is the creation god of the Californian Tongva tribe, and Quaoar is suddenly manifesting out of nothing, and he has nothing, but he has his physical body and his voice, and he starts singing and dancing, and he sings and dances out into being, the sun and the moon, and then the three of them join and start singing and dancing together, and so slowly and step by step they create everything in the world. And so it's creation out of nothing through art. And then there are two healing us, or at least Avicenna is a healing asteroid, and Hermes is, of course, the lord of the underworld, or not the lord, sorry, the messenger of the underworld, sorry. And Avicenna is one of the healing asteroids because it is linked to healing. Avicenna is the Latinized name of Ibn Sina, who is the physician and magician in the 1001 nights, the sailed marathon. And these are the conjunctions I was going to talk to you about. On the ascendant, you have Pluto, lord of the underworld, but also death and transformation, exactly conjunct the part of fortune. But of course, if you have a sun-moon conjunction, the part of fortune is always on your ascendant. An asteroid Lilith behind them, and this denotes revolt against injustice. In the first house, you have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which is becoming very tight. This is a blocking conjunction by Saturn, so Saturn is still blocking Jupiter, because then the two of them move into Aquarius, and that is where the conjunction, the exact conjunction will occur. A couple of weeks later. This is on the 14th, and maybe it's still in December. I forgot the exact date, but anyhow, it's within 2 weeks maybe. And then you have Pallas Athena there already in Aquarius, where the conjunction is going to occur. That is in the first house. And then the Sun-Moon conjunction, if you take a peek at it, this is the last degree before actually the new moon. So actually we are maybe an hour or two before the new moon. So it's a very, very tight balsamic moon conjunction. And this is not a fresh start. This is the letting go of something. Think about this. It's the letting go of something. And also it's a very strong moment, a very potent moment for any kind of magic, the last digits of the balsamic moon. And of course, I could have said that this is a full conjunction, which it is, but there's a very exact conjunction between the South Node and Mercury. The nodal axis is stationary, which means that, yes, you need to understand what you brought in, South Node, what your karmic experiences are. And of course, the North Node in Gemini is also stationary, and it represents your chosen destiny. And then the Juno, Astrea, Venus triple conjunction is fascinating. Venus is, of course, besides love, money. Juno, besides being the official husband or wife or the first lady, so the official spouse or the serious committed relationship significator, it is also the significator of contracts, pacts and contracts. And Astrea is the karma breaker. So, and it's on the 10th house, in the 10th house, which is the house of future, but also the house of what you're striving towards. No comment, no more comment. The sun moon is also making two little and one, actually one big and one little configuration. But what's more important is that the Pluto Aries square, and I left out Mars from here because first of all, the conjunction is applying and not very, very tight, and I like tight configurations. So, but the Mars is coming up to Aries, so it's good to remember. But this is an exact T square, cardinal T square, at the apex of which is the drastically altered outward circumstances. And yes, never ever in world history was there anything so much forced upon us. Mask mandates, lockdowns, all sorts of stupid rules. Families were torn apart. Kids couldn't go to school. As I said, I'm trying not to say what I think about this, but the chart explains everything. And then you also have a cardinal fire engine with the sun, moon, Aries, and descendant. And again, the descendant is the partner, but also contracts and also open enemies. And out of engines, which are made up by a square, a trine, and a quincunx, the cardinal ones are the most effective ones because they initiate things. And fire is the element of transformation. And this is the cardinal fire engine. There's some transcendental celestial objects. On the sun, moon, you have Thalia and yes, on the sun, moon, you have Thalia and there will be another slide where I also included Mercury and the south node, and so that will be separate because there are 2 degrees between the two of them, and there's another set of configurations that I'm going to show you in a minute. So on the sun, moon, you have Hel, which is Hel, the lady of the underworld, Thalia, which is the muse for theater. Think about that. And Ras Ahagu, which is Alpha Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus is the serpent holder, the one of the constellations that is very much linked to healing. And Ras Ahagu is the hand which holds the serpent's head. On the ascendant Pluto, you have a number of things. America, Zeus, the chief god, Gawain, a knight in shining armor, Hecate, the dark goddess, Sophia, wisdom, and Anahita, which is the creator goddess, at least in our region, for the Persians, for the Hungarians, for the Armenians. Anahita is the creator goddess. Clearly something was created. And here, I included the sun, moon here, but you can see that they are slightly out of orb. And when you have a configuration where the sun and the moon are not exactly there, so they are not within 2 degrees, but they're still in the vicinity, those are highlighting, they have highlighting effects, illuminating effects. So there's a mutable ground cross involving the south node Mercury and north node on the one hand, and Neptune Vesta on the other hand. And Neptune in the mundane sense is the smokescreen, it's the pink fog, it's deception, is it is of course higher love and sacrifice as well, but it usually is something close to deception. And then Vesta is a focusing principle. It means that you need to focus on something. It's a mutable ground cross, so something to let go. There's also a mystic rectangle involving the midheaven, I see. So the future and your family with the Neptune Vesta opposition. And there are 2 engines here as well. There's a mutable water engine, MC Neptune and North Node, and the mutable earth engine, North Node Mercury Vesta and IC. And mutable engines are good for change. And of course, water is emotions and earth is practicality. And if you add the transcendental celestial objects, and again here I did not include the sun, moon transcendentals because a couple of slides earlier you could find them. Here's only the Mercury South Node, which has Imhotep, the polymath, the Egyptian polymath and doctor, physician, and Themis, wisdom. On Neptune, you have Thetis, the goddess of the seas, again, emotions, and Demeter, the goddess of agriculture. On IC, you have Thales, a mathematician, a Greek mathematician and philosopher. And what's interesting is on Vesta, you have Alcor and Mizar. This is a double star, which you can't really see by the naked eye. Alcor is not particularly too bright. It's 4 magnitude. Mizar is bright, 2.4. So this is the portion in the Big Dipper where this thing is broken. So we have a legend for this. I'm not going to translate it to you, but this star symbolizes a broken world. It symbolizes the cataclysm we had to suffer through about 12,500 years ago, and when everything collapsed, and when Atlantis disappeared, let's put it this way, but not just Atlantis, everything. And from then on, our life has been really very, very different, very hard, very harsh and different. And now these stars are on Vesta. So let's focus and look around. I mean, this whole agenda, first the virus, the pandemic, the lockdowns, the whole total collapse of both agriculture and economy in many ways. And then comes the war. And I always ask, who are the Ukrainians to us? What do we have with them? There are many, many wars in the world. Why does Europe have to sacrifice its economy, its well-being, its wealth for something that is not even ours? Ask yourself these questions. The task or the goal, let's put it this way, is to impoverish us, to make us really poor. Because when you are poor, when you have nothing, that this is what Klaus Schwab wants us to become by 2030. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Ha ha ha. That's the agenda, to raise the prices to such a high extent that you can't actually buy them. So you're going to dip into your resources, your investments, and you're slowly going to get rid of them. And the reason is because the current monetary system cannot be sustained. So it's easier, instead of saying, okay, we are broke, sorry, okay. Instead of that, it's easier to break everyone else with it. Okay, I'm not saying anything more. Here you have a Yod, a finger of fate, and a dissolved opposition. The Yod is fascinating because, of course, you have the Venus, Juno, Astraea, again, big money, contracts, and destiny change. And then you have the Saturn, Jupiter blocking conjunction, because Saturn here blocks Jupiter. And at the apex, you have the dark moon Lilith, which is the acceptance of the curse. This episode of Lilith, this turning point in Lilith is, the Lilith myth is when Lilith goes away and Yahweh sends 2 or 3 angels and asks her, or actually commands her to go back, but Lilith accepts Yahweh's curse rather than going back. It's the acceptance of the curse. And then you also have Sedna, creation through dissection. So that's a dissolved opposition. And Sedna is opposite the Juno, Venus, Astraea triple conjunction. Transcendental objects, here you have Bacchus and Clio on Astraea, altered phase of consciousness and the muse of history. On the Venus Juno, you have Hannibal and Aten. Aten is, of course, the chief god, and Hannibal is a very successful general. And then on Jupiter Saturn, you have Isis and Tantalus. Tantalus is suffering. Isis is the goddess who puts things together and becomes the mother of Horus. And on the dark moon, you have Chaos. Chaos plays a very important role next year, on the year 2013, because it's 2023, where did this come from? Freudian slip, probably. When Chaos is coming in and out of Cancer, So it's at the very end of Gemini at the moment. And whenever you find anything at 0 degrees of the cardinals, that is always an era is changing. So chaos is moving into Cancer. Brilliant. And then there's a few asteroids and other related objects. First, I'm showing you to health and healing. Make a screenshot of this and use them. Serenal.com is the place where you can enter these numbers, and then it will show you any placements for any date. And you also have a couple of death and rebirth and underworld asteroids. How should I leave it here so you can make a nice screenshot? Here's it. So these are related to death and also rebirth, of course, and certain underworld deities are also here. Okay, so again, I'm not saying anything. You are smart enough and you are intelligent enough to make your own conclusions out of this chart. And on the 14th, it's the 2nd anniversary of the first administered Pfizer vaccine. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.